you, Wendy. And I would also like to thank everybody who is dialing in at the moment. No matter where you're dialing in from, I will do what I can to make sure that this hour, plus or minus, give or take, will be very worthwhile time spent for you. First, I will share my own story. We're going to go through some stress symptoms, and then I will give you some tips for how to manage your stress levels. First of all, a bit of background, because stress is actually a topic that's very close to my own heart, because I almost faced burnout myself. What you see here is a picture of the City of London. And this is actually where I worked for a big part of my career. I was working for an investment bank. And I was so lucky that I ran the largest project of that bank for between 2 to 3 years. At the height of the project, we had 50 people working on it. And the purpose of the project was to reduce risk in the bank and to get better control of the risk. And if we were not successful with this project, the business stream of that particular division would have to close down. So not the entire bank, but that business stream. So you can imagine the kind of pressures that were mounting on my shoulders. And my project sponsor said to me, Susanne, don't worry, you're not going to get fired. But the 2 project managers before me had been fired. And it was such a prestigious, not prestigious, it was a high profile project. So I was, of course, working late. I was very motivated, actually, to get this done, but it was also at the edge of my comfort zone. And I'm sure many of you can relate to that in project work. So whenever somebody was working late from my team, I would also work late to support them. But also, of course, I was working late to cover my own stuff. At one point, we didn't have a technical architect available, so I tried to cover even for the technical architect, which is completely ludicrous because I don't have a technical background. So all of this to give you the context of where my own stress levels were headed back then. This was 2006, 2007. And it began to take a toll on my body. So I began to have difficulty sleeping. I began to have bad digestion. And worst of all, probably, I began to have inflammation, to get inflammation in my foot. So at some point, I had to walk with a walking stick to alleviate the pressure on my foot. And you can probably imagine that if you're in your 30s, that is not a great thing. I guess it's not a great thing at any age, but it really was a bit of a wake-up call for me that something had to change and I had to take my stress levels seriously. Luckily, we were coming towards the end of the project and it actually all went very well. I went to HR in confidence, I thought, and I actually told them that I was struggling. The next day, my manager turned up at my desk and said, Susanne, what's going on? And shocked at the fact that my conversation had not been confidential, I was also pleased, however, that my manager reached out because he actually assigned a project administrator to my project. And it helped me to delegate, it helped me to focus on, not to work those excessively long hours as well. So that's the first thing I did to get back really to full health, was to get better at delegating and asking for help. And it was a process, and I see many people I coach have difficulties asking for help, but it's definitely not. It's not a great asset, thinking that we're super people, supermen, that we can deal with it all ourselves, or that we're control freaks. That's also not a good sign. I also began to leave the office on time, which was 6 p.m. for me. There could be exceptions, but I really tried to leave the office earlier and to not think about work once I left the office. And the offices I worked at the time in central London was right next to St. Paul's Cathedral. So I would go down into the underground station with my new intentions of not thinking about work. And there was a thought that popped into my mind about work. And I thought, oh yeah, but I've decided not to think about work, so I put it aside. 2 seconds later, there was another thought that popped into my mind about work. And I thought, no, I'm not going to think about work. And what happened 2 seconds later? Exactly the same thing. And I realized not only that I think a lot about work, But I realized that I was not in control of my thoughts. So I really began to work with this and to become more conscious until I got to a point where I could really snap my fingers and decide, I'm not going to think about work now. I'm going to do something different. We can train our minds. Because the mental aspect is so important when we talk about stress, and I will go more into that later. I also began to practice yoga and pay more attention to what I eat, the healthy side, the physical side of wellness, which is also super important. And I did more of what gave me energy outside of work as well. And I took a mini sabbatical. That's actually why I approached HR in the first place. Not everybody is so fortunate that they can take 6 weeks off like I did. I actually went on a travel to India in 2008. But it did me a lot of good, let's just say. It was a real blessing that I was able to do so. Now, all of this is just to put in context where I'm coming from and what happened in my own life. Now we are going to turn to what stress really is and how it relates to you. So we can define stress as a situation where demands on you exceed your resources or ability to cope. It happens when you feel that you can't cope with pressure. And this is very individual. Different people have different perceptions of what their resources are or what their abilities are. So it's a very, very individual thing. There are 3 stages physiologically of stress. The first stage is alarm. I want you to imagine right now that something happens outside of you that stresses you. It could be anything. What usually stresses you out? It could be seeing that you have a ton of emails waiting for you. It could be knowing that you have a presentation in 2 hours and you haven't been given any notice. Or it could be that your client is asking for yet another change request. So that stage number 1 is the alarm stage. You go into your fight, flight, or freeze response. Either you get ready to deal with it, or you run away from it, or you just freeze. This is natural for our body. We are built to do that. Yeah, your heart rate increases and the stress hormones get released into your body. This is perfectly normal. As I said, we are built for that. Let's say you do your presentation, it goes well, your heart rate goes back, you have a rest, you go for a walk, you laugh, and it's all fine. That is the perfect scenario. You get stressed, you do something, and you relax, you recover, your stress hormones die down, and it's fine. Nothing wrong with that. There is stress in everything we do. The problem is if you get to stage 2. When you get to stage 2, it means that you never get a rest. It means that your stress is continuous. It means that you...
Hi there, I hope you enjoyed that last clip. My name is Michael Maludis, and if you'd like to watch the full 60 minutes of that last webcast, while also gaining complete unlimited access to our entire library of IT learning, simply visit our subscribe page at greatpro.org/subscribe. Unlimited annual access is $199 per year, but if you use the coupon code LEARN2EARN, you can drop that membership fee to just $149. That's less than $13 per month for unlimited access to over 1,000 hours of on-demand career development, covering the entire spectrum of IT management best practices, including business analysis and requirements, software development, quality and testing, risk management, process improvement, project management, and even digital transformation. But your membership doesn't just give you unlimited access to our vast learning library. You also get free access to our mobile app, as well as direct access to our network of over 300 of the world's leading IT consultants, all of whom are dedicated to putting practical knowledge at your fingertips so that you can learn more and earn more. I hope you will join me in becoming a member of the Great IT Professional and advancing your career with us. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button above so that you get notified whenever we publish new free webcasts each week of the year. Thank you for your time and best wishes for your continued success.